I'm about to give an unpopular opinion, I know, but here's why we need to suck it up and embrace the halo. A quick background for the uninitiated. Formula One and other open cockpit racing series have worked tirelessly-ish over the last few decades to make their sport safer. Safer for the drivers, safer for the spectators, and safer for the team members and track officials. This makes sense. A few examples of improvements made in the name of safety include moving the feet into the safety cell, tethering the tyres, raising the cockpit sidewalls, and mandating the use of a helmet brace known as the HANDS device. We'll touch on the HANDS briefly later. Over the last decade, several serious head injuries, 3 of them fatal, have reminded us that for all the protection we've given the drivers, we've still left their heads completely exposed. Now, I'm no biologist, but I've done my research here, and it turns out the head is a very important part of the body. So exploring ways to protect the head seems like a good idea to me. It's actually amazing how slow progress in this area has been. Felipe Massa was hit by a small spring in 2009, and was thankfully able to return to racing again the following year. Since then, 18-year-old F2 driver Henry Surtees was killed when his head was struck by a tyre, Justin Wilson was killed when his head was struck by debris, and Jules Bianchi died from injuries sustained when he crashed into a trackside crane. Only now in 2017, 3 years after Bianchi's crash, have F1 finally mandated a head protection structure, and this comes in the form of the halo. Let's be honest right out the gate here. People hate the halo. They don't hate what it's trying to do, at least for the most part. They mostly hate how it looks, and that it's part of a growing trend of proactive and reactive decisions made by the powers that be that are shaping the sport away from its very essence. Is F1 still F1 anymore? That's a bigger question for another video. So the halo then, what is it? It's basically a big old hoop over the driver's head with a straight bar right in front of their face, strong enough to deflect debris as heavy as tyres. It doesn't blend in with the rest of the car or even try to match the design aesthetic in any way. It's a sticking plaster over an ugly problem, a means to an end. Other designs were proposed and tested. The aeroscreen and shield were oversized plexiglass windscreens designed to deflect debris away from the drivers' heads, while more subtly blending into the design and flow of the car. Then why have we been forced to adopt the halo? Well, because it works and because it's ready. That's basically it. The screen-based solutions weren't as effective in debris testing and were reportedly causing sickness due to their vibrations under use. They weren't ready to go, the halo was. But wait, I hear you say, how is the halo ready? Why don't we wait and get the engineers to figure out a way of fixing the aeroscreen problem or design a more attractive halo? One that F1 deserves. There are further arguments too, though I'm not sure if these are just projections launched from the fact the halo is so ugly. These include the fact that F1 drivers should be gladiators, warriors, battling against the very dangers of speed as they race around the track. It will slow down the evacuation time for a driver. Currently, the driver has to provably be able to evacuate the car fully in 5 seconds, and the halo clearly gets in the way of that. Or, if the car rolls over, the driver might get trapped in the cockpit by the halo, which is dangerous. I've said these arguments are projections because I'm not sure we'd be having these arguments if a pretty solution had been found. I also have a bit of an argument for all of them. Arguments 2 and 3 are the easiest to break down, even though they are the most sensible. Both of these arguments are about the driver being able to evacuate the car quickly, and the historical urgency around this point is related to fire. See, in the past, if a car was in a heavy accident, the fuel tank could easily rupture, the car could be consumed in flames, and if the driver was trapped in the car, they could easily asphyxiate. So it was vitally important to get them out as soon as possible. Nowadays, though, the threat of fuel fire is minimal. After an accident, the safest place for a driver to be is normally still inside the car, and they should only leave the cockpit when it's safe to do so. We've not seen fuel fires in a long time, and we've rarely seen cars roll in such a way that they trap the driver. So argument 1 then. Drivers are gladiators. And okay, there's a lot tied up in this. We especially hear this argument from drivers and ex-racing drivers themselves, which is interesting if you think about it. But driving these extremely fast cars is exhilarating. Your job is to work at speeds and forces greater than a roller coaster, with your heart rate soaring and your adrenaline pumping. Of course you feel like a gladiator. Of course you feel like you're slapping death in the face with every lap taken in anger. It's a rush. So at first blush, I can understand why drivers say, forget all these safety features, just strap me to the engine and let's go. I am a road warrior. Alright, but let's take a step back and think about what you're actually saying, gladiatorial driver. If you're speaking up against a proven safety device, you're not just speaking up on behalf of yourself. You're including all your colleagues and competitors as well. You're saying, I don't think my fellow racer, for example, teenager Lance Stroll, deserves to have his head protected when doing his job. I'm not just willing to take the risk for myself, but I want to force everyone else to take the risk too. Because you can't opt in or out of the halo. Everyone has to do it. If you could opt out, everyone would have to opt out because it's such a pain in the arse to design a car around. It adds weight to the car and you have to design the car around fitting the halo into the crash structure. It's a performance deficit, so it has to be mandated if anyone's going to have it. No one should have to dice with death to be a racing driver. The qualifications for competing shouldn't include not caring if you get super injured or die. No one should have to absorb that kind of risk to do their job, and it's a ridiculous case of machismo to expect that. Imagine if the drivers or teams kicked up such a fuss that the halo was abandoned for 2018. And then imagine during that season a young driver was smacked in the face with debris and killed. Or not killed, but put in a coma. Or severely brain damaged for life. Or blinded. Imagine being someone who stood up against the halo's introduction, knowing it worked, knowing it would have prevented a terrible injury. Could they look themselves in the eye? Would it be worth it to feel like a gladiator? The FIA certainly can't take that risk. They've got a working system in their hands and they have no choice but to force it on the cars. Yes, it could look better, and yes, it probably will look better. Now it's mandatory, I suspect people will come up with designs for future seasons that suit the cars and integrate better. The hands devices used to be bulky, ugly things when they were first mandated, but now I bet you don't even notice them, do you? Maybe they'll get an aero screen working, maybe a closed cockpit is the inevitable future. Whatever happens, the FIA could not, in good conscience or legal sensibility, keep the halo away. And look, wings are weird, and so is the roll structure really. It's just there to serve a purpose, it's not part of the smooth design of the car. But we get used to all these bits and bobs that hang off the car that have come about due to regulations and innovation. And we'll get used to this, and lives may be saved along the way. I'd definitely have stuck a halo on the cars of Massa, Wilson, Bianchi and Surtees, wouldn't you? Whew. Well, I hope you don't all subscribe at that controversial point. Wait till a future video when I tell you about how great the hybrid engine is and how going back to V8s is a terrible idea. Then we'll have fun. I'm aiming to come back more regularly, but these videos take time and energy and I literally have no money. So I'm considering setting up a Patreon to make this more possible. And yes, I'll do more how does this work type videos as well as opinion videos and reflections. I want to do more things with this channel. Thanks for watching.